Okay, now we're going to get into the divisional budgets. Our divisional budgets align with our expenditures and our strategic goals, providing the service demands across the different departments. Line item descriptions promote transparency and accountability in budgeting, purchasing, and reporting. And divisional budgets support programs like leadership, development, training, community outreach, as well as annual operating costs like fuel, utilities, services, equipment, and technology. So we are going to talk about the commissioner budget, the election budget, and the audit budget. So there are a couple of changes in the commissioner budget this year. Let me get to that page. There was a request by the chair for a governance retreat in 2026, an increase for memberships and conferences, and we made a reduction in legal services. Legal services was requested last year with the idea that there may be a need or a desire to have legal counsel for the commission that was outside of our usual legal counsel. There was a reduction in that, but I will tell you that the commissioner budget is still under review because the Chair Baruso just got back to us on some of the conference costs. And so we're going to go back into the commissioner budget and make some adjustments there based off of his input. He had indicated previously that he had no concerns with how the budget looked, but his retreat costs were, I think, a little bit higher than he had expected or hoped for. So this budget does not include it. I was just speaking to Commissioner Vedino. Some of these things that come in midstream, once we've gone in and created all these presentations and documents, we'll wait on making those changes until after today's meeting in preparation for board adoption later in the month. There was an increase in audit. Every year, the state auditor provides a estimate for the next year's audit, and they've got an increase. So all in all, the commissioner budget is increasing about 5%. That could change based off of the actual numbers that I get. There's no change to the election cost. We budget every year $200,000 for elections. Some years it's nothing because we're not running an election or a commissioner seat is not open. And some years we are the only one on the ballot and we're fronting the cost for the entire thing. So we've had election costs of upwards of $300,000 or $400,000, but we can't budget for that every year. So we just do $200,000 a year. So no change in the budget for elections, and then about a 40%, 39.8% increase for audits. The state auditor's cost. You know, one of the things about it, just before I get too deep into the divisional budgets, is you'll see these 39%, you know, you'll see these high percentages, but when you look at the total amongst the budget, you know, $9,000, about a $10,000 increase. Just consider that as we move forward. Okay, our general budget is a pretty hefty budget. We've increased some of the line items that are specific to our employee recognitions, our banquets, promotional recognitions that we hold. We have an increased workforce. We have a number of promotional opportunities. Our costs are going up. And as we talked about earlier, we made a concerted effort to invest in employee relations this year. So we moved some money around based off of our needs and our growing headcount. We've got an increase for consultants, slight modification to the strategic planning. We had budgeted kind of high the last couple of years, but still $50,000 in strategic planning. We do have a planning chief on board now, so that should help once we secure a consultant to guide us through the process. Our insurance costs have gone up, just like your personal insurance has gone up. Our insurance has gone up significantly. and there's been some increases in utility costs. Partly also driven to the fact that we have an additional facility through the admin building that came on board. And then the LTGO bond is under debt service. So if you see in the general budget, you've got a 42.1% increase. That equates to 1.278 million, but 1.2 of that is the LTGO debt payment. So had we not have funded that, it would not have been a very big increase in general. Okay, administration. So we underwent a organizational restructure this summer. You'll see that we reduced a couple of positions. We eliminated a deputy chief of EMS. We had a couple of retirements. We reorged, and we've also, one of the things I want to make mention is some of these budgets will have new line items, but I'm not going to repeat it throughout the process. But some budgets have a new line item for education benefit. So the Board of Commissioners this time last year adopted a education policy, which dictated us establishing a education committee and processes to determine proposals for education, who's funded, everything in between, some real structure around education. But that's actually technically a benefit. So, and there are tax implications. And so we're following IRS guidelines, but it's technically a benefit. So what we're doing is if you were approved for education, that money has been moved out of training into an education line item in the budget that you work out of. So some budgets include this new education benefit line item. I thought I'd touch on it here because we have a chief who is getting his education, and that's the first budget we're covering. So all in all, with those changes, we see a 20.4% reduction in administrative costs, which equates to $484,000. And then we also took out, we had a $15,000 allotment for an executive development program. Currently, we don't foresee needing that next year. We're not eliminating the line item, but we removed the funding. The last individual to take advantage of that was our finance manager, Barrett, who got her master's degree. This is annoying. Okay. Business Operations Finance Division. So you're going to see pension costs across all the divisions or most of the divisions decrease, and that's because the pension rates changed. I'm going to guess that last several years pension investments have done well in the stock market, and so the state lowered pension contribution rates, which our employees and the district benefit from because there's both parties pay into that. ERC. We have the Employee Resource Center, who is sort of co-managed, co-shared between finance and IT. But we have a consultant that they work with quite often. And the more we have, we're finding benefits in utilizing our Employee Resource Center. And so we've upped our consultant money to help pay for some additional workflows and forms that we would benefit from. Overall, a 4% increase in finance, or $26,000. Human resources. The major change here is we went from a 3-employee division to the hope for a 4-employee division. Mary Stevens was here a long time. She just recently retired out. We took a look at what our costs were for HR, and we felt like we could increase our staffing with about the same amount of money, and we actually did. I actually think if you look at the line items, the salary portion of the HR budget is almost even. In fact, it might be even negative. the major increase here was we had to increase our cost for hiring. We project to hire a number of new positions next year. We have to do background checks and all of the work that goes behind that. So the increase is for hiring. And then the L&I management claims, that went up significantly. So again, going back to our conversation, our goal would be to bring that work in-house and cut some costs in the future. Okay, operations, big increase, 8.8% or $2.4 million. We're adding new firefighters to ops. My stomach is growling. There's also an increase for the Honor Guard program and the addition of the extrication program. We've also included a line item for apparatus equipment. So this has been an ongoing conversation. When we buy new apparatus, historically, we're stripping an old apparatus of its equipment and putting them on a new apparatus. Well, when you're plussing up, you're adding new units, you have nothing to strip from. So furthermore, replacement schedules on equipment weren't adhered to or in place or monitored. So we've established a fund in operations that we will fund every year to afford equipment that needs to go on new apparatus that we purchase. So Chief Sukol and the Apparatus Standardization Committee are currently drawing up what those numbers look like. For right now, we've got an allotment there. It might need to change in the future, but at least we've got a line item in the budget for it. And it's in the operations budget because the chief of operations and the planning chief need to sign off on what we do. So, and then furthermore, we've also added some line items such as chainsaw replacements. Again, came to light that we've actually not even had a chainsaw replacement program. So we just replace them as they fail. So these are new line items that we're able to put into the budget because we have stable revenue, and we should have frankly have always been budgeting for these types of things that our firefighters use. Finally, on the operations budget, I want to commend the individuals that came in and pitched their budgets. The extrication program came in, they pitched their needs, their desire for additional training. The group benefited extremely from the immersive training that was conducted earlier this year. BC John, who has managed the Honor Guard program for many years, had requested a slight increase. And so I think all in all, the operations divisional budget requests were reasonable. And so they were funded. But $2.4 million increase for our operations division. Okay, our battalion chiefs. So the creation of the new day shift BCs are now funded in the budget. You'll see a 44.4% increase, equating to about $500,000. If you look at the savings that we had over in administration and you look at the increase in BCs, almost equal. So part of the restructure. And I put succession in motion because that's exactly what it was meant to be. The EMS officer position has to be negotiated. We've approached the union. We have a meeting on November 12th to discuss this position. So we have funded the equivalent of a represented officer in the EMS budget. So you see a huge 512% increase simply because there wasn't any money there before. Our special teams rescue unit, some adjustments to equipment, maintenance, and training, just moving some money around and asked for a slight increase, 7.7% or $12,000. Our Marine team, I think they were so happy with their night vision goggles that they wanted to give money back. That's not true. But Lieutenant Freeborn did a nice job recognizing that they had benefited from a grant. and was being very realistic with his overtime money. There was some money that he didn't feel he needed and instructors, but there was some increases in some other areas. But all in all, it's actually a decrease for the Marine team. The hazmat unit made some adjustments for additional hazmat members, slight reduction in training, and then some movement of those reductions into hazmat protection equipment line item for some new suits that they're looking at getting. 11.1% or $14,000. The swimmer unit was status quo. It's a movement of money, but all in all, status quo. Health and wellness and safety. We made some adjustments to the overtime codes that come out of that division based off of actuals and need. There was an increase to cover our left 2 chief officers for wellness checks, given career-long exposure on the streets. Our firefighters get wellness checks annually, but our chief officers, as they promote out, were not included in that. And so we have funded that. Also an increase in gym equipment. We found out that when we have recruit academies that the training officers, the temporary training officers go and get equipment from all the fire stations to conjure up enough equipment for the recruits to utilize, and then that ends up taking away equipment from the firefighters who work at the station. So there's an increase in gym equipment so that the training cadre has their own cache of equipment. And then Ready Rebound from many years ago was for some reason plugged into the training budget. Ready Rebound has nothing to do with the training program. And so Chief Winter had requested that we move it from the training budget into the safe health and wellness budget. So 47% increase, but that's mostly because of the movement of money. Fire Marshal's office. I told you were going to give money back. There is a reduction of 2.8% in the Fire Marshal's office, which is about $46,000. And the truth behind that reduction, because I was a little concerned that we were cutting Fire Marshal Nichols' wage, was he actually had a individual retire out of that office. And so we were temporarily doubled up in last year's budget. So when that individual retired out, it settled into what it should be, and there was actually a reduction in wages over last year. So nobody gave up any money in that office. There is an education benefit because Fire Marshal Nichols is getting his education. And then he did give some money back in reference materials. And there's a slight reduction in fire investigations. Is there a reason why? Do you have a mic?
Yes, the number of fires that we've requested a fire investigator was reduced last year. So hopefully we can stay status quo and keep our fires down.
Well said. Thank you. Next time, identify yourself, please. Okay. MIH, which is, there's a request to move back to using the name CARES. We're going to start migrating that way again, but it's a little bit of a change for us. So we're going to embed CARES and slowly migrate. Generally, status quo, slight increase in MIH supplies. This is the majority of this budget is funded through King County money. So slight increase for MIH supplies. No change to staff. The training consortium. Go back. That's weird. Okay. the cost for the training consortium is increasing. Chief Tyerman, I had a conversation with him a couple of weeks ago. He is changing how the consortium calculates the cost for running the consortium. They want to move more to actuals. So the number has changed. There is an increase, but we also expect some offsets in credits and reductions depending on how many recruits are going through the academy. So that is yet to be realized, but for now, there is an increase in the training budget of 16.6% or 160,000, driven mostly by the consortium. And then we did take Ready Rebound out of that budget. Okay, our operations facility budget. I think Sean did a great job on this. He's always very reasonable. He moves some money around based off of actuals. About a 2% increase or $15,000. A lot of his money comes out of the capital projects for some of those station improvements that he's undertaking. And I just wanted to point out, we did reactivate the line item for vacant property. We did not fund it. If we have to incur costs associated with people being there or illegal dumping happening on our property, we will certainly deal with it, but we don't want to fund it more than we have to. So we'll just show a negative number in that line item.
What was the increase in fueling stations?
Could you look that up? I don't remember off the top of my head. There was a question what the increase in fueling stations was. I know that we have put monitoring systems on our fuel stations, and it might have been to replace some of those. Yeah, we put in the fueling stations when we did the 2015 bond. We upgraded our fuel systems. That's 10 years old, give or take, depending on which ones we're talking about. And I recall Sean mentioning that they were starting to have some problems with the fueling stations. It might have just been for repairs. That's correct. Yeah. Furthermore, just on a side note, we had years ago problems where the fuel tanks were empty. Somebody would pull up to fill up a vehicle and they were empty. And so for whatever reason, we had not been checking the fuel levels. And we use those fuel tanks for emergency generator during activations and disasters and emergencies. So we put in fuel monitors, and so that whole system takes upkeep now. So it's probably somewhere in there, but yes. Thanks for asking the question. Okay. Ken does a great job with his budget as well. Very reasonable. Just move some money around and a few increases based off of actual costs. Tires are going up. The cost of batteries are going up. Batteries don't last as long as they used to. You may be familiar with your own personal vehicle. Technology has changed, and there's such a reliance on electrical systems in cars. A lot of the cars are actually powered in some capacity when you're not even using it. It's connected, right? So these drain the batteries, and then we have to replace them. They're getting more expensive. So a 4.2% increase in the fleet budget, $36,000. Logistics. This is a big one. We've been migrating things over to our logistics division as we continue to build that division out. One of the items that we brought in was $60,000 worth of hose. Generally, one of those capital items that I talked about before, where we'll fund it if we have money type of thing. We've built a line item into the budget for hose so that he can replace hose. That actually has an implication with our WSRB rating. PCERN fees, these are the fees that we pay to the county, the radio network. Used to come out of the IT budget, had some conversations. The logistics division is now managing those radios. And so everybody felt it would be better for that to come out of the logistics budget. So we moved it out of the infotech division into logistics. Increases in BA repairs, that's breathing apparatus. Increased PPE purchases and replacements. We have more firefighters. We have to buy more PPE. And then we have, we used to do our repairs, our sewing repairs in-house. We had an individual retire out, and so our cost for repairing our PPE has increased as we have had to outsource it. All in all, a 27% increase, or $334,000. $90,000+ of that was PERCERN fees, which was just a move from one budget to another. Information technology. So, change in personnel. We had our data analyst retire. So there we were doubled up for at least a period of time in salaries. So there were some changes there. We've moved a number of items that were previously in capital, computers, tablets, station alerting, battery backups, to operating line items in the IT operating budget. Increased costs for cloud computing, software as a service, and then major system upgrades. So there's a big increase, but some of those items would have previously been budgeted to the same tune in capital. We moved them into the operating budget. So there's a 21.1% increase, or $332,000. The station alerting system for 64s, $160,000, I think, give or take.
Yes, and that was with the 10% overage for budgeting.
Yeah, modernizing our station alerting at the stations. One station, upwards of $160,000 to do. We have 7 fire stations, so that's built into here. But it just, these big numbers are a result of updating outdated systems. Okay, and then our self-insurance program continues to operate really well. 6.8% increase, or $460,000. Again, that's a different number than what we see from our third-party administrators. That's because our budget includes HRA disbursements, left 2 or left 1 costs, reimbursement costs. So if you were to compare what were provided from our third-party administrators under the medical program, the numbers are different. But all in all, industry trend has generally been 6% for increased costs. So 6.8% is really well, and that's with an increased employee headcount. Commissioner Gates had asked during the Finance and Audit Committee meeting why there was a reduced amount in HRA disbursements. We have multiple plans, and we've had a number of employees decide that receiving HRA funds and paying their deductibles, and then having to demonstrate, which is a very difficult system, to demonstrate that their receipts are valid. They're like, to heck with it. I'm just going to move away from that and go with an easier plan. So we've seen employees choose that election, and so we've seen a reduction in our HRA costs. Okay, I'm not going to go through all the line item descriptions, but the line item descriptions have been updated. They are included on from page 37 to page 50 in the draft budget document. It includes the bars coding number, all of the line item titles, and all of the associated descriptions. So I want to talk real quickly about what's next. We need to shore up our current strategic direction and projects that we're working on into the overall strategic plan. As you know, you've been along for the ride. We have a number of things in the hopper that are going on that have been funded, that we need to follow through on. So we want to make sure that our strategic direction is put into place. we have the Station 62 remodel. We have the admin building improvements. We're looking at how to expand our fire operations, including additional apparatus and response locations. We need to put an emphasis on adequate firefighter staffing levels and new approaches to should we start over? Yeah. New approaches to response locations and apparatus to improve quality service levels. And we need to start getting back to community. One thing that's been pointed out by our team is for a number of years, everything that we did, we were neglecting to talk about the community, that we work for the community, we answer to the community, we respond to the community. And so we want to make sure that everything we're doing is community focused, and that we're out there engaging with the community, and that we're also letting them know what we're doing for them. So that's going to be our focus moving forward. And I want to say thank you to everybody that participated in this process. I was talking to Commissioner Vedino earlier. We all sat around this room in October and had a fantastic budget workshop. This is my 5th year doing this, and it's been an evolution, and it's been a continuous improvement process. But the firefighters that presented their budgets, the time and effort they put into it, some of them have never presented in such fashion before, but they stood right here before us and they talked about their programs and they demonstrated their passion for their programs. And it's an opportunity for people to learn from each other and to actually see the needs of a modern fire district. So this is not how it used to be, and we've been very intentional about involving people and providing opportunities for people to have exposure. So I want to say thank you to everybody that participated. And before I wrap it up, don't get too eager with the mic over here. I also want to show a couple of things. So this is a dashboard that our finance manager created. And when we talk about budget transparency, a few years ago, there were comments like, well, we want to know where the money's going. And we have these types of meetings and we talk about it, but there hasn't been an easy way for people to see it. So finance manager Barrett created this dashboard that lives in our ERC. And we can go in real time, click on any budget, see where we're at for the year, where the money's being spent. Shows exactly, you can see green is below budget, red is you're trending over budget. So as an example, in this screenshot, you can see our insurance casualty and liability insurance. It has gone up, which is why we increased it in the budget. We're over budget, costs are increasing. So some of our utilities pictured here are going up. So we've made those adjustments. So this works for our capital, our monthly expenditures, everything. There's all eyes. If you're interested, you have the ability to take a look at this. And then I want to wrap it up with the process. So we talked about many years ago, it was, you might send an email, you might write it on a napkin, you might present it, you might not, whatever, in terms of asking for budget requests. So as this process has evolved, we now have spreadsheets in the ERC for each division, and it has all of their line items. It has the current year expenditure and then what you're asking for the next year. There's justifications down below. There's capital requests, and we can go in and we can take a look at it. We can make comments. We can ask questions. We can approve it. If it's green, it's approved. If it's yellow or red, it's declined, or you need more information. And you can see here, there's a whole list of spreadsheets. So it's all there. Like, the amount of effort that's been put into our budget process, it's tremendous. And I want to thank everybody that took it seriously and participated. That is the end of our 2026 draft budget presentation.
Thank you, Director Ganem, and everybody who participated in that process. I will now read the ground rules, and then we will have open public comment. So the following rules will be enforced at the public hearing. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes. No individual speaker shall speak more than once until all prospective speakers have been heard. Speakers shall not directly question or argue with each other. All questions and comments shall be directed to the chair. Questions asked must be pertinent to the subject of this hearing. Do we have any public comments? I do not see any, so I will adjourn this public hearing. The public hearing is closed and no additional comments will be heard. We will resume the special meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Number 6, we have public comment again on the agenda. Is there any public comments related? I'm guessing not. Okay. And then number 7, good of the order. Is there anything? Oh, okay. Number 8, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Wow.
Okay.